Sherry Eyerly, an 18-year-old woman, delivered pizza for Domino's in Salem, Oregon in 1982 as a driver for the pizza delivery company. She had just been employed there for a month on July 4, 1982. Therefore, she was still relatively new to the position. She was staying in an apartment in South Salem with a cousin after receiving her diploma from Sprague High School. The unsettling aspect of this case is that, although Sherry wasn't meant to be at work on Independence Day, she went in when a co-worker requested her to cover her shift so she could go to a party. This would be a twist of fate that would result in Sherry Eyerly's unsolved disappearance and suspected murder, which is now over 41 years old as of 2024. The fast food restaurant where she worked received a call sometime about 9 o'clock that night. The caller identified himself as Dunbar and was described as a middle-aged man. He discussed what to order with a worker during the conversation. He said that they had previously received pizza from a different female driver in an orange Volkswagen. She would know where the address was. It was discovered after the caller hung up that this female wasn't working that evening, so another call had to be placed to the unidentified man. The individual indicated he would be at a place on Riverhaven Drive near Brown Island Road, which is a highly forested region near the Willamette River, although the callback number was for the City Center Motel. Sherry set off in her Ford Pinto to the area. However, alarm bells began to ring when she never returned to the Domino's. At 10 p.m., Sherry's car was discovered with the engine idling. Her hat and pizza boxes were scattered on the ground around it. One of the boxes had a tire track on it. Another had a boot print on it. No trace of Sherry was found at the scene, but it was obvious to investigators that she had been abducted. Soon after, inquiries were launched to learn more about the caller before Sherry vanished. But it turned out that the caller had provided a false address and a fictitious name. Someone did contact the Domino's the following day, demanding a ransom to ensure her safe return. However, the caller never made an effort to get in touch with the police again or to demand money. Numerous witnesses who noticed an odd older model truck parked on the side of the road around the time Sherry was abducted were found by the police. It was said to have 2 spotlights atop the cab and huge tires on a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It was facing the road from the back, while it was parked with its front off the road. The driver of the truck has never been found or recognized. Dallas psychic investigator John Catchings claimed to have woken up around 3 in the morning from a peaceful sleep a month after Sherry disappeared. He noticed a young woman's ghostly apparition standing at the edge of his bed. He thought there must be a reason she showed up for him. In an attempt to bring Sherry's family some closure, he got a package with details on Sherry's case from Salem authorities 4 days later. She was the woman he had seen in his bedroom, he realized when he saw her picture. His initial thought was that she was dead, not just missing. Catchings traveled to Oregon and was brought to the location of Sherry's kidnapping after analyzing the case. He was interested in going there to try and find out where her body was. While there, he claimed to have seen visions of what he thought had happened that evening. Sherry was allegedly driving down the road in search of an address that she was unable to locate. A pickup truck with several lights on it approached her. The driver informed her that he provided the incorrect address while ordering the pizzas. He grabbed her from behind and pulled her into his pickup as she was getting out of her car to deliver them to him. Catchings inquired as they were touring the scene whether the police had a list of potential suspects who owned a green pickup vehicle. Catchings recognized one name as the officer read the list. The individual went by Darrell J. Wilson. Catchings believed he was involved in Sherry's kidnapping. Wilson was already under suspicion after his sister-in-law alerted authorities to his ownership of a lime green pickup truck. It seems that he had only given it a brown coat 8 days after Sherry was kidnapped. The informant said that he had genuinely known Sherry. However, when questioned, Wilson lied about ever knowing who Sherry was. Officers decided to bring Catchings to Wilson's house on August 21, 1982. Catchings was startled to learn that the house was the same white mansion with exterior pillars that he had seen in a previous vision. Wilson declined to submit to a polygraph when requested. He did, oddly enough, say he would speak with a psychic. Catchings met with him after getting out of the car. He talked about how the night of Sherry's kidnapping, he was camping at Elk Lake with some buddies. Even though it was only a 2.5-hour drive, he was unable to account for 8 hours of that time. That included the period of time when Sherry was kidnapped. John was certain that Wilson was responsible for Sherry's disappearance. Less than 2 hours later, police were called back to Wilson's home. He had committed suicide. No new leads came in, and Sherry's case turned cold. Years later, cold case investigators examined Sherry's case and concluded that Wilson did not match the abductor's behavioral description. Wilson was reportedly a problematic man who had no prior criminal record and had been involved in narcotics for a number of years. He had no link to Sherry's case. They investigated the likelihood of another party being involved. They thought Sherry's kidnapper had already committed acts akin to these. They discovered a homicide that was comparable and happened a year after she disappeared, after going through other case files. Katie Redmond was the victim. She had disappeared from a late-night college party. Her car was found with the motor running, the door open and signs of a struggle. This was almost identical to Sherry's abduction scene. Her body was later found in a river. Her killer was identified as William Scott Smith, and he was convicted in her case and that of another murdered girl, Rebecca Darling. Sherry's situation at first, he denied any participation. He stated that at the time he was operating a truck in the state of Washington. Years later, investigators decided to give Smith another look. Within hours of Sherry being kidnapped, they discovered he had been pulled over and questioned by police in the vicinity of Salem. This disproved his assertion that he wasn't in the region at the time. His cellmates questioned him. They discovered that he was a part of an event with a pizza girl. Still, he didn't address Sherry by name. These statements could be recorded by the prisoners and provided to the authorities on cassette. In 2007, Smith was interviewed again. He initially refused to talk. However, he changed his mind when he was offered to change prisons in exchange for his cooperation. He then confessed to being involved in Sherry's abduction and murder. He claimed that his friend Roger Nosef ordered the pizzas and that they waited for her to arrive. When she did, Smith flagged her down. As she picked up the pizzas, they grabbed her and dragged her into their truck. They then took her to an area near Smith's parents' home where he strangled her. He then dumped her body into the Pudding River, where he had dumped those of his other victims. However, because of flooding in the area, her body may never be found. Smith's description of the abduction matched the physical evidence found at the scene. He also gave investigators information about the crime that had never been released to the public. For example, he knew the details of pizza that had been ordered. He told them that he and Nosef had planned to abduct another delivery driver that they knew and hold her for ransom. He also told them that Nosef had made a ransom call to Domino's the day after Sherry's abduction, demanding $50,000 for her safe return. This detail had also never been released to the public. Nosef died in 2003, several years before the confession. On December 18, 2007, Smith pleaded guilty to Sherry's murder and was sentenced to life in prison. To this day, Sherry has not been located. Sherry weighed around 100 pounds. She had brown hair and blue eyes. Sherry had the initials TB tattooed between her left thumb and forefinger. On the night of her disappearance, she was wearing a red, white and blue Domino's pizza shirt and blue jeans. Today, she would be 60 years old.